The following conclusions are based on a real survey made by a company named Sonta, summoned by the University of Belgrano for the Mail Companies Association of the Republic of Argentina, AEZA in Spanish. The carbon footprint is a measurement of all emissions of greenhouse effect gases generated by human activities through a product or service life cycle. In the past years, a lot of companies have integrated this initiative and developed different strategies in order to quantify and reduce their emissions. This is how the carbon footprint management has become a competitive advantage for many companies. Their contribution to the environmental protection also brings direct benefits to the corporate image strengthening. However, does sending an email pollute? According to recent surveys, the environmental impact produced by an email is a lot higher than we might think. The Guardian estimates that a spam produces 0.3 grams of CO2. An email in the inbox produces 4 grams of CO2. And an email with an attachment can even produce up to 50 grams of CO2. Furthermore, McAfee holds that a regular user of business email is responsible for 131 kilograms of CO2 per year. However, it is maintained that sending information by email is more ecological. That is why a lot of documents issuing companies, relying on this argument, have replaced the use of postal mail by email everywhere in the world. But have we analyzed carefully all the information? Do we know the path that makes an email through the cyberspace and all the elements involved in its production, distribution, and storage process? An email containing a business attachment of 1 megabyte, according to the French Agency for the Environment and Energy Control, only read and used for 5 minutes, produces 19 grams of CO2. On the other hand, a typical delivery service of a business document, bills, accounts, summaries, etc., according to the survey made by Sonta in the Argentine territory, produces the following amounts of CO2. Search and reception process in Issuance Center in the city of Buenos Aires, 0.10 grams of CO2. Production, classification, and packaging process, 1.37 grams of CO2. Distribution and sending process, for example, between the city of Buenos Aires and Mar del Plata, 400 kilometers of distance, 0.70 grams of CO2. Reclassification in the Mar del Plata Regional Center, 1.20 grams of CO2. Distribution to the final user, 0 grams of CO2, because it's distributed mainly by non-polluting ways. Total, 3.37 grams of CO2. Adding up to 25 grams of CO2 of the indirect emissions of the mail client, produced by the printed document to send, envelope, plus document up to 4 pages. Total, 28.37 grams of CO2 per letter. In Buenos Aires, the mailing companies associated to the AEZA send 869 millions of regular business letters per year to several places in the Argentine Republic, therefore producing about 3,000 tons of CO2. Thus, those companies have the possibility to determine their CO2 emission levels and generate a strategy in order to reduce and mitigate them. Moreover, we already know that the emails with attached business information up to 1 megabyte have a carbon footprint around 19 grams. The problem lies in fact that, once sent by the issuing company, the possibility to determine the upper limit of CO2 emission is lost. This underdetermination is due to the following possibilities. The information is printed by the final user using common printers, inks, and papers of higher environmental impact. The email is forwarded to immediate consultation servers in the headquarters or between various users. The email is stored indefinitely in copy, both by the final user and the issuing companies. This way we can state that an email with an attachment and its several management variables can get to produce an unquantifiable amount of CO2 and, therefore, uncontrollable. The survey made by Sonta presents the following results. The CO2 emissions produced by the Postal Service are lower than the ones of an email sent with an attachment of 1 megabyte. If we add to the postal service the CO2 of the postal document produced by the issuing company, the CO2 level increases. Although the postal service is indivisible from the postal document and the fact that no one could exist without the other, it is important to dimension the responsibilities of the involved actors. On the other hand, if we add to the email sending with a 1 megabyte attachment the printing by uncontrollable or private means, the emissions increase up to reach levels that are remarkably higher than the ones of the postal mail. From this survey, it is possible to evaluate the CO2 emissions, which enables to implement reduction and mitigation policies. Can we specifically measure the CO2 emission of one of these business emails and by considering all their variables? The AEZA did it with the Argentinian postal mail service. Because being able to measure is the first step to controlling.